Truffaut book. This is an interview with Alfred Hitchcock, and as you can see, there's a lot of pages. There's quite a few pages, actually. If you know anything about me, I love old movies. I love classic film. I love watching movies from the silent era, from like the early 1920s, and even before that. And I also really love movies that go from that era to the early sound to the 1940s. And one of my favorite directors is Alfred Hitchcock. And this is probably the best book to read on his movies. I wanted to go through and show you all the movies of his that I like, pictures, and just talk about it. And hopefully this will be relaxing for you, so you can unwind and fall asleep. That's my hope for you, anyway. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with some page flipping and, I guess, show and tell. Alright, so this is basically an interview book. As you can see, it's pretty thick. I can squeeze it. You can tell how thick and how many pages there are. I really like the feel of the book. It has a plastic cover and not hardback, which would have been nice, but it's very highly illustrated, which I appreciate. This is basically how it sounds when you flip the pages. On the back, we have a picture of Alfred Hitchcock, along with Truffaut. He's a French filmmaker who interviewed Hitchcock for this book, for this really big book. I think it has 967 pages, which is, 367 pages, which is still a lot. So, take this out, and I'll just show you the beginning. So, this is Hitchcock's trademark profile picture that he would have at the beginning of all of his Hitchcock Presents TV shows. And he would also move into, with his profile, his silhouette. So it's pretty iconic for him, actually. And we won't go through the whole book, but we will go through a lot of it, just so I can show you all the movies that I like. So let me see if I can get into frame here. Okay. So as you can see, we have the copyright in New York, for 1983. I think that's the last copyright. Yeah. Actually, 1984 for the English version. And this is just a autograph from the author, Francis Truffaut. Here we have the contents. So we don't really need to look through that. It's just basically, I'll go back to that. It basically lists all all of the films, as you can see, and sort of the periods that Hitchcock was in when he did his movies. This is the preface. And we'll just skip to the first chapter. So, here is Hitchcock when he was a young filmmaker, a boy filmmaker, as he put it in an interview with Dick Cavett from the 1970s. But this is him from, I would say, the early 1920s, when he was just getting started. And he did like a lot of title cards for silent films, and then he eventually moved into directing. So this is basically the transcript of everything. He worked on the movie Woman to Woman. I'll show you a better picture. This is Woman to Woman. I haven't seen this one, but it's a silent movie from 1923, I think. I could be wrong. But I like silent films because they were really, really artful, and I think, such as this, you only see the characters in the foreground, kind of like a stage play, and you can't really see the background as much. And he also worked on a movie called Moulin Rouge. Oops. Can you? Yeah. Trying to get a good picture here, but Moulin Rouge right here. And it wasn't like the Moulin Rouge with Nicole Kidman from 2001. It was a silent film, so not a musical, but it was still a good film. It wasn't a trademark Hitchcock, though. He didn't really move into his more thriller horror style until a little bit later. So this is another one of his movies called The White Shadow. I don't think he actually directed this one, but I really love the fashions from that time, from the 20s and even the 30s. I really like the woman's fashion quite a bit. But Hitchcock, he got his start in England, so all of these are British films. And here's a classic vamp style woman right here. Vamp is short for vampire, and these types of girls were really popular in the 20s, and the flappers as well, in movies in the 20s, because they tend to have really dark hair, and they tend to be very vampiric, as it were. But yeah, that was sort of a style that people, kind of like, I guess, the goth style, maybe in like the early 2000s, the vamp was really popular at the time. And here she is in a more dainty appearance. But let me get to, here's a ghost. Here's Hitchcock right here, directing one of his first early films, and right behind him is a script girl named Alma Reville, and she married Hitchcock, and they stayed married until his death in 1985, I think, and they had one daughter, Patricia. Here's a silent film he worked on, and you can see this is his more early Hitchcock type style, because you have someone being strangled right there. which isn't a pretty picture, but it's definitely thrilling. And this is when we get into, I think, one of Alfred Hitchcock's more classic Hitchcock type movies. And this one right here, this picture, is The Lodger with Ivor Novello. Ivor Novello was a musician in England, a British musician, and an actor. And he was also gay in real life. But this is from 1928, I think, or from the mid to late 20s. But Ivor Novello, in this movie called The Lodger, it's a silent movie. It's one of Hitchcock's earliest films in England. It's about Jack the Ripper in London, and girls are being murdered, and Ivor Novello is accused of being Jack the Ripper. It's a very thrilling chase at the end. Here's one of the opening sequences with the girl getting strangled by Jack the Ripper. Sort of a modern version, a tale like modernized, but like, you know, for the 1920s. And a lot of his styles were really artistic. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about, but he really made more sophisticated films, starting with The Lodger. I really recommend watching this if you're into filmmaking, and classic films. So moving on. This one right here, I think we're getting into, it's this one right here. So this one is called Blackmail, and this is, I think, a 1929 movie of Hitchcock's, and it features this actress who didn't really speak much English. I think she was Swedish, maybe. Blackmail was the UK's first talking picture. It was supposed to be silent, but then in 1929, The Jazz Singer came out, which was the first talking picture with sound. And so everybody started making sound movies, and Hitchcock made the very first one in 1929 with Blackmail. But in this movie, she kills, and it's a really great watch, in my opinion. Here's some behind the scenes shots right here, featuring Hitchcock and the actress. And one thing about Hitchcock is that he appears in all of his movies in a cameo. He usually appears at the beginning of the movie. So in this movie, in Blackmail, he's on the subway right here. He's always in his pictures. He's always in his films. And this is Juno and the Paycock. It wasn't really much of a thriller, in my opinion. So it wasn't like a classic Hitchcock movie, but it was a drama based on a stage play. And, you know, it's something that if you're a true Hitchcock fan, you'll probably watch at least once and then move on to his bigger, more thrilling pictures. Oops. Sorry. Let's see. trying to find a movie that I really like. Oh. This one. This is The Man Who Knew Too Much. This is Hitchcock's first version. He remade this movie in the 50s, but he made a version in the 1930s featuring Nova Pilbeam, who he used in another movie in the 30s, which I actually was watching last night, called Young and Innocent. But basically, it's a really, you should watch The Man Who Knew Too Much, at least the remake, Hitchcock's remake. He remade his own movie in the 50s. It's about a child. Well, you can read about it. I don't want to spoil it, but it's one of the classic Hitchcock films. And The 39 Steps. This is also a really good one too. He's in classic Hitchcock style. This guy is accused of something that he didn't do, and a lot of Hitchcock movies follow the same sort of pattern, but in a very effective manner. And we have a woman screaming because she just discovered something not good, and the train whistle sort of plays over her scream, so it's like sort of a J switch, I think is what it's called, maybe, or when a scene overlaps with another scene. And oh, this is Young and Innocent, by the way. This is one of my favorites. It's called Sabotage, and it's from the 1930s as well. And it's based on a book called Secret Agent, which I just started reading. It's one of my favorite early Hitchcock films, as you can see. And here is a scene, or shot by shot in a scene, sort of like a storyboard. And this is when Mrs. Verloc, played by Sylvia Sidney, and kind of, I don't know how to say it, she gets her revenge against her husband. I'll just leave it at that. And this is Young and Innocent. This is Nova Pilbeam, like I said. Nova Pilbeam right there, British actress, and that's Derek Dumarney, I think. Oh, so this one is The Lady Vanishes from 1938, I think, and this one is a fantastic film. If you want to see a 1930s film and you've never seen one, watch The Lady Vanishes. It's also really a great Hitchcock movie. And then we have Jamaica Inn, which isn't the best film in my opinion. And here's Hitchcock's first American film called Rebecca, based on a book by Daphne du Maurier. I think that's how you say her name, Daphne du Maurier. She wrote Rebecca, and she also wrote The Birds, which was a short story that Hitchcock turned into a movie, a horror film about birds. Have you ever seen it? It's a good one. But this started Hitchcock's films in America with David O. Selznick, and he started producing very grand movies, like this is Foreign Correspondent, and this is Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which surprisingly isn't a thriller. It isn't a horror movie. It's just, I think it's a comedy. It's about a husband and wife, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, with Constance Bennett and Robert Montgomery. Yes, Robert Montgomery from 1941. I think Hitchcock did it as a favor for Carol Lombard. Did I say Carol Lombard? That's who the actress is. I might have said Constance Bennett because I was watching a Constance Bennett movie earlier. But I think he did it as a favor for Carol Lombard, but it wasn't. I think it was a comedy, like maybe a romantic comedy. And this is Spellbound? No, this is Suspicion. Spellbound is Gregory Peck, I think. But this is Suspicion with Joan Fontaine. Yes, Joan Fontaine. And I think Cary Grant. But it's a wife who suspects her husband of something nefarious. I should probably lay this book down so I could turn it easily, but hopefully it's relaxing for you. This one is Saboteur with I can't remember what her name is or his name is. Is it Priscilla Lane? But this one is a good movie. He is accused of something he didn't do, and she thinks he did do it, but then, they, not to spoil it for you, but they fall in love. These are all the pictures from the film. And there's a fantastic shot in this film at the top of the Statue of Liberty. And this guy is hanging on from the Statue of Liberty. And he winds up just not being able to hang on any longer. But it's a fantastic shot. I'm not sure how they did it. Maybe like a matte painting or something. I don't know. But it was really good. Oh my gosh. So this one is called Shadow of a Doubt. This is one of my favorite early American Hitchcock films from 1940 something. Can't remember the year, 1942 or 1943. But it's one of my favorite movies from the 40s. My favorite Hitchcock movie is Shadow of a Doubt. And this one is Lifeboat. This is a movie that was set entirely on a lifeboat, and it was an ensemble cast with people like Marlene Dietrich and some other, is that Marlene Dietrich? And just other well-known actors at the time, and it actually was a success despite only being set on a lifeboat. And this one is Spellbound. So this one is with Gregory Peck and Ingrid Bergman. This one's really good. I haven't watched it in a long time, but it has a really cool dream sequence. Oh, here's the dream sequence. I don't know if you can see, but there's like a big eye and all these, like, I guess, what's it called? When, like, surreal images. And this guy is pretty scary, I think. He holds like a key to the whole mystery. It's a wheel in his hand, but this is part of the dream. And this one is Notorious. Another one with Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman. I think Hitchcock made at least 2 movies with Ingrid Bergman. That's Ingrid Bergman right there. This one's good as well. And Cary Grant, he made at least 3. I think Notorious, Suspicion, and North by Northwest. Oh, and To Catch a Thief, so 4. Yeah, he made 4 with Cary Grant. I've only seen To Catch a Thief maybe a couple of times, I think. This one is... Oh, actually, I'm bending my pages. Hold on. Oh, this one is the Paradine case, which I've never seen because the plot never interested me, and I don't think it did very well at the box office. But here's one called Rope, and this was based on a stage play. It was a really good movie. It was shot in like one continuous shot throughout the movie, kind of like a play. And it's a really interesting story. It's kind of based on a true story. So, as you can see, this is how they shot the movie. Just like on a sound stage, but they made it look like a what's it called? Like a stage for a play. And this is one of, I think this might be the first James Stewart movie. Hitchcock made a couple of movies with James Stewart. This one and The Man Who Knew Too Much. I think that's it, from what I remember. Oh my gosh, what the heck is this? This is, oh gosh, which one is this? This is, oh yeah, Under Capricorn. It didn't do too well at the box office, and I've never seen it because, again, the plot didn't really interest me. This is Stage Fright. I think this one also has Marlene Dietrich in here, but this one, I don't think it did too well at the box office either. And I've seen it. It's good. I think it's good, but I don't go out of my way to watch it all the time. Here's Hitchcock walking up some stairs. And here is Strangers on a Train. This is Farley Granger and Robert Walker. This is a really good movie. Highly recommend this one. It's actually really well done and very suspenseful. Oh, and Strangers on a Train features Hitchcock's daughter. She's one of the like main actresses in the movie. So here's I Confess, about a priest, and it includes, let me see, oh, it includes Montgomery Clift as the priest. Oops, right here. He was a really good actor. He was really good looking too. And this one is, it's hard to think on, I know this one. This one is, this has Leave It to Beaver in it, but this is one of Hitchcock's movies. His early, I think his first color, no, not his first color movie, but it's from the early 50s with Shirley MacLaine, and it's called The Trouble with Harry, and it's set in Vermont in the fall, in the autumn. It's a really beautiful movie, but it's like a, kind of like a dark comedy, a black comedy is what they called it. And this is Dial M for Murder, one of Hitchcock's famous movies. Oh, here's also another famous Hitchcock movie called Rear Window, and this has James Stewart in it. And I think I said that James Stewart was only in 2 Hitchcock movies. It's actually 3. So it's Rear Window and the Man Who Knew Too Much, the remake version, and Rope, which is what we just saw. And basically, in this movie, Rear Window, James Stewart he lives in an apartment in New York City, and he witnesses something through his camera lens in another apartment across the way. Or he thinks that he's heard something or saw something, and he tries to solve the case. And that features Grace Kelly, who is also in 2 or 3 Hitchcock movies. I think 3, actually. But this is a classic film, and it's shot on a huge soundstage to make it look like apartment complexes in New York City. It's really cool. And here's James Stewart looking through his camera lens. He really sees something, and you can see what he sees in the lens. I thought that was pretty clever of how Hitchcock managed to show the audience what he was seeing at the same time showing James Stewart's face, you know, simultaneously. I thought that was really clever. Let's see if I can get these pages turning. Okay. Oh, here's another shot from, I can never think of this movie. This is The Trouble with Harry. I used to have that movie. Here is The Man Who Knew Too Much with James Stewart. This is from the 50s with Doris Day. She sings Que Sera Sera, which is like a famous song that she really popularized. She was afraid that song was going to be too childish, but it was actually really popular. Everybody loved it. This is the remake. This one is longer. It's not as fast paced as the original. This is the remake with James Stewart and Doris Day, but it's also really good. It's shot in Morocco and then London. Excellent movie. Highly recommend if you want to see a Hitchcock movie. Obviously, there's Psycho, there's The Birds, but The Man Who Knew Too Much is, you know, another classic. I like this one actually more than Rear Window, to be honest. Some more shots from the film. And this is Doris Day at Albert Hall. And here is, I think this is The Wrong Man, maybe? Picture with Fonda, Henry Fonda, and that's Jane Fonda's dad, Henry Fonda. And yeah, Jane Fonda's dad, and they actually acted together in a movie called On Walden Pond, is that what it's called, with Katharine Hepburn? And I don't know if it's Walden Pond, but something like that. It's like a lake or a pond. I haven't seen it, but I do like Katharine Hepburn quite a bit. Anyway, I've only seen this movie maybe once or twice, I think. It's actually good. It's not bad. And let's see. Oh, it features the woman from Vera Miles. She's the wife. She's also in Psycho. She plays Janet Leigh's sister in Psycho. Here is Vertigo, one of my favorite Hitchcock movies, with Kim Novak and James Stewart. Oh my gosh, I'm missing so many movies. James Stewart was in 5 Hitchcock movies: Vertigo, Rear Window, The Man Who Knew Too Much, Rope, and Rope, Vertigo, The Man Who Knew Too Much. Oh my gosh, Rear Window, Rope, Rope, Vertigo, Rear Window, The Man Who Knew Too Much, and something else. Can't remember. That's okay. Oh, that's gonna bother me. Vertigo. Vertigo, Rope, The Man Who Knew Too Much, Rear Window. I'm gonna have to go back. Hold on. Maybe it is just 4. Okay, let's flip back. So Vertigo is set in San Francisco, and it has some beautiful shots of the San Francisco Bay and the bridge and forest and things like that. It's a really beautiful film. It's Technicolor and just gorgeous. I love the music too. It's a really good movie. Highly recommend watching Vertigo. There's a lot of movies of Hitchcock's that I recommend. Here is North by Northwest. This is another Cary Grant movie with Eva Marie Saint, and this one's set in New York, and then they're actually all over the place in this movie. But this is a good one if you like sort of spy movies. Speaking of which, The Lady Vanishes is a spy movie. Remember, that was the one I said from the 30s I really like. This is an iconic scene from North by Northwest of Cary Grant getting chased by a crop duster who was actually hired to take him down. So he's running across like a field in, I don't know, Nebraska or something, like the Midwest or somewhere, I don't know, but yeah. But he makes it out, and he gets chased with Eva Marie Saint on the Mount Rushmore in North Dakota or South Dakota. Again, this movie's all over the place. Where is Mount Rushmore? Is that North Dakota or South Dakota? Don't remember. Okay, now we get into the 60s. 1960 with Psycho. If you know anything about horror movies, you probably know about Psycho being one of the early horror movies that we kind of like know today. And this is still Rear Window. But here's some shots with Janet Leigh. Janet Leigh is Jamie Lee Curtis's mom. And here's Janet Leigh. They're having a rendezvous in the beginning of the movie. And here's the iconic Psycho house with Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates. I think you can still visit the Psycho house at Universal Studios in California. I'm not sure if they still do that, the shower scene there. They do like a show. You can watch the shower scene reenacted, but here's some shots. Alfred Hitchcock's daughter is in this movie too, with Janet Leigh. She's just at the beginning though. She doesn't have a big part. I think she was married and had kids, and she didn't really do any more acting after that. And here's one of the famous scenes from the movie. Some really cool shots, like effective shots for, I don't want to say an early horror movie, but like from 1960. So it was really good. And here's the famous shower scene from Psycho. I'll just skip past this one. But there's Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates. He runs the hotel. Oh, Tippi Hedren in The Birds. So The Birds was probably the first Hitchcock film that I ever watched, and I fell in love with it. I would come home after school, and I would turn on The Birds, and I would transcribe the script while I watched it by hand. I would transcribe the script by hand. And then I got Tippi Hedren's autograph. I can't find it anywhere, so I lost it, unfortunately, but I got it once, and she knew about me for, a few minutes. But I really like The Birds. It's basically about the birds in Bodega Bay, California, who go and attack a bunch of people. And here's some scenes, some shots of the birds. It's actually a really well done movie. And fun fact about The Birds is there's no musical score. There's no musical soundtrack. It's just birds. That's it. Just birds. As you can see, here's some more birds. Here's Hitchcock doing the bird sounds. He's working with Bernard Herrmann, I think. I think they both worked on sort of like mixing electronic sounds for the sounds of the birds to make them sound ominous and foreboding. Here's Marnie. This is a movie that I don't think did really well, but it features Tippi Hedren. And that was the last movie with Tippi Hedren for reasons which you can read about on the internet.